Dr. Marcus Chen had always been the type of person who stayed late at the research facility. While his colleagues went home to their families and weekend plans, Marcus found himself drawn to the mysteries that lay hidden in the depths of the Kepler research station. Tonight was no different, except for the strange humming sound coming from Storage Bay 7. The sound had started 3 days ago, barely audible at first. Marcus had mentioned it to his supervisor, Dr. Rodriguez, but the older man had dismissed it as equipment malfunction. The maintenance crew had checked twice and found nothing wrong. Yet the humming persisted, growing stronger each night. Marcus pressed his keycard against the scanner and stepped into the dimly lit storage bay. Rows of metal containers stretched before him, each one containing artifacts recovered from the Proxima Centauri expedition 5 years ago. Most were rocks, mineral samples, and what appeared to be broken machinery from some long-dead civilization. The humming was definitely coming from this room. He walked slowly between the containers, holding his tablet up to record audio levels. The sound was strongest near container PC-847, a large metal box that supposedly contained fragments of what the expedition team had labeled as crystalline technology. Marcus had read the reports. The crystals were inert, showing no signs of energy output or technological function. They were just pretty rocks, according to the official documentation. Marcus input his access code and watched as the container's locks disengaged with a series of metallic clicks. The humming stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence that made his skin crawl. He lifted the heavy lid and peered inside. The crystals were beautiful, no doubt about that. They formed intricate geometric patterns, almost like a three-dimensional puzzle that had been partially assembled. The largest piece was about the size of a basketball, with smaller fragments arranged around it in what seemed like a deliberate pattern. But what caught Marcus's attention was the faint blue glow emanating from within the crystals themselves. "That's new," he muttered, reaching for his scanning equipment. According to every previous analysis, these crystals showed no signs of luminescence or energy output. Yet here they were, pulsing with a soft, rhythmic light that reminded him of a heartbeat. As Marcus leaned closer to take detailed scans, his tablet slipped from his hands. He lunged forward to catch it, accidentally brushing his fingers against the largest crystal. The moment his skin made contact, everything changed. The crystal blazed with brilliant blue light, and Marcus felt a surge of energy course through his body. It wasn't painful, but it was intense, like touching a live wire that somehow felt warm and welcoming instead of dangerous. The other crystal fragments began to glow as well, and Marcus watched in amazement as they started moving on their own, rearranging themselves into a more complex pattern. What the hell? Marcus stumbled backward, but found he couldn't take his eyes off the crystals. They were forming something, creating a structure that definitely hadn't been there before. The fragments clicked together with perfect precision, guided by some invisible force that made Marcus think of magnetic attraction. The humming returned, but now it was different. It had melody to it, almost like singing. And, somehow, impossibly, Marcus understood that it was trying to communicate with him. The crystal structure completed itself, standing about 4 feet tall and resembling a translucent blue tree made of living light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire structure began to pulse, and Marcus felt that same strange energy wash over him again. This time, though, he wasn't just touching one crystal. The entire formation was resonating with him, and he could feel something awakening within it. The light grew brighter, and Marcus had to shield his eyes. When the brilliance faded, he found himself staring at something that definitely wasn't in any of the expedition reports. Standing before him was a figure that appeared to be made of the same blue crystalline material, but shaped into the form of a humanoid being. She was tall, probably close to 6 feet, with features that were unmistakably feminine despite being composed of what looked like living crystal. Her face was delicate, almost elfin, with large eyes that glowed with the same blue light as the crystals. When she moved, it was with a fluid grace that made Marcus think of water flowing uphill. "You," she said, and her voice was like the sound of wind chimes mixed with flowing water. "You awakened me." Marcus tried to speak, but found his throat had gone completely dry. He managed a strangled noise that might have been hello. The crystalline being stepped closer, and Marcus noticed that her feet didn't quite touch the ground. She was floating, just slightly, like someone walking on the surface of a calm lake. her glowing eyes fixed on his face with an intensity that made him feel like she was looking directly into his soul. "I am Lyra," she said, tilting her head in a way that reminded Marcus of a curious bird. "I have been sleeping for so very long. The others, they tried to wake me, but their touch was wrong. Harsh. Cold. But, you." She reached out toward him, stopping just short of touching his face. "Your essence is warm. Kind. You woke me gently." "I don't understand," Marcus finally managed to say. "You're supposed to be rocks. Inert crystals." The reports said. Reports? Lyra's expression shifted to something that might have been amusement. "Your people found my sleeping form and thought I was mere stone? How wonderfully innocent." She gestured toward the empty container. "They carried me away from my homeworld, never knowing they held a living being." Marcus felt his scientific mind trying to process what he was seeing. "You're alive? I mean, obviously you're alive, you're talking to me, but how is that possible?" "Our scans showed no signs of biological activity." "I am not biological as you understand it," Lyra explained patiently. "My people evolved differently than yours. We are beings of crystalline matrix and energy patterns. When we sleep, we appear as what you would call minerals. But we are very much alive." She moved closer, and Marcus caught a scent like ozone and fresh rain. "The question now is what happens next." "You have awakened me, Marcus-chan. Yes, I can sense your name and your thoughts, and, according to the ancient laws of my people, this creates a bond between us." "A bond?" Marcus's voice cracked slightly. Lyra nodded, her crystalline hair catching the light like spun glass. "The one who awakens us becomes our anchor to the physical realm. Without that connection, we fade back into sleep within days. But, with it..." She smiled, and Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. "With it, we can exist fully in your world." "I didn't know," Marcus said quickly. "I mean, I didn't intend to." "I know," Lyra said softly. "Your intentions were pure. You sought only understanding. But, intention matters less than action, and you have given me the greatest gift possible. You have given me life in this realm." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of everything. "Okay, so let's say I accept all of this. What exactly does this bond mean? What am I supposed to do?" Lyra's expression grew serious. "It means I cannot be far from you for extended periods. The bond requires proximity to remain stable. It means your life force will sustain my existence in this dimension. And, it means..." She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "It means I will protect you with my life, as you have given me mine." "Great," Marcus muttered. "No pressure there." Before Lyra could respond, the storage bay's alarm system activated. Red lights began flashing, and the automated voice announced, "Unauthorized energy signature detected in storage bay 7. Security teams respond immediately." "We need to get out of here," Marcus said, grabbing his tablet and looking around frantically. "Why?" Lyra asked, genuinely confused. "Because if security finds you here, they'll want to study you, possibly experiment on you. And I don't think either of us wants that." Lyra's eyes darkened to a deep blue. "No. I will not be a specimen again." Marcus felt a chill at her words. "Again?" "The expedition that found me," Lyra said, her voice taking on a harder edge. "They were not the first to discover my people. There have been others. Others who sought to harvest our crystalline forms for their technology. Others who cared nothing for the fact that we were alive." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Marcus grabbed Lyra's hand without thinking, surprised to find it warm and solid despite its crystalline appearance. "Come on," he said. "I know a way out through the maintenance tunnels." As they ran through the storage bay, Lyra's form began to shift and change. The blue light dimmed, and her crystalline features took on a more human appearance. By the time they reached the maintenance access panel, she looked like a woman made of translucent blue glass rather than living crystal. "How did you do that?" Marcus asked as he input his access code. "Adaptation," Lyra replied. My people are naturally capable of altering our appearance to some degree. It is a survival mechanism. They slipped into the narrow maintenance tunnel just as security teams entered the storage bay. Marcus could hear them talking in confused voices about energy readings and equipment malfunctions. He led Lyra through a maze of passages that he had memorized during his late-night wanderings. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked. "My apartment," Marcus said. "It's off-campus housing, private. We can figure out what to do next there." As they emerged from the tunnels into the cool night air, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what he had gotten himself into. Lyra walked beside him, her transformed appearance allowing her to pass for human in the dim streetlight, but he could still see the faint glow emanating from beneath her skin. "Marcus," Lyra said as they approached his apartment building, "I want you to understand something. This bond we now share, it is not a burden you must bear alone. My people believe that awakening bonds are formed for a reason. Perhaps the universe brought us together because we both needed something the other could provide." Marcus looked at her, seeing the earnest expression on her face. "What could you possibly need from me? I'm just a researcher." Lyra smiled, and, for the first time since awakening, it reached her glowing eyes. "You gave me life, Marcus. And, in return, I can give you wonders beyond your imagination. My people's knowledge of crystalline technology spans millennia. The secrets of energy manipulation, matter conversion, dimensional travel, all of this I can share with you." "That sounds incredible," Marcus said, unlocking his apartment door. "But, what about the immediate problem? The research station is going to notice that their inert crystals are missing. They'll start an investigation. Then, we will need to be clever," Lyra said, stepping into his apartment and looking around with curious eyes. "Tell me, Marcus, how ambitious are your people? How far would they go to possess technology beyond their current understanding?" Marcus thought about his superiors at the research station, about the military contracts and corporate sponsors that funded their work. "Pretty far, I'd imagine." Lyra nodded grimly. "Then, we have work to do. My awakening has sent ripples through what you might call the dimensional fabric. If there are others of my people sleeping on your world, and I believe there are, they will begin to stir. Some may awaken peacefully, as I did. But others." She met his eyes. "Others may not be so fortunate in who finds them first." Marcus sank into his couch, the full weight of the situation finally hitting him. "You're saying there could be more of you out there? And, if the wrong people find them, they could be enslaved, dissected, or worse," Lyra confirmed. "My people have long memories, Marcus. We remember the last time humans discovered us. It did not end well for anyone involved." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What happened?" Lyra was quiet for a long moment, her glow dimming slightly. "War," she said simply. "A war that cost both our species dearly. A war that my people thought was over." She sat down beside him, her crystalline form settling onto the couch with surprising naturalness. "But, perhaps this time can be different. Perhaps the bond between us is a sign that humans have evolved beyond their previous cruelty. Perhaps you can help me prevent history from repeating itself." Marcus looked at this incredible being sitting in his mundane apartment, surrounded by his books and coffee-stained research papers. Everything about his life had changed in the space of an hour, and he suspected it was only the beginning. "Okay," he said finally. "What do we do first?" Lyra's smile was radiant. "First, we find the others before anyone else does. And, then, we prepare for what's coming. Because whether we like it or not, Marcus, our two species are about to collide again. The only question is whether it will end in understanding or in ashes." As if to emphasize her point, Marcus's phone buzzed with an emergency alert from the research station. The message was brief but alarming: "All personnel report immediately. Multiple energy signatures detected across the continental United States. Classification level, Xenological Event Alpha." Marcus showed the message to Lyra, who read it with growing concern. "It has already begun," she said softly. "Others are awakening, and not all of them will be as fortunate as I was to find someone like you." She stood, her form beginning to shift back toward its more crystalline appearance. "We must move quickly, Marcus. There are forces at play here that neither of our species fully understands." Marcus grabbed his laptop and started packing. "Where do we start?" "With the closest awakening," Lyra said, her eyes beginning to glow brighter. "I can sense them, my sleeping kin. There is one not far from here, perhaps 200 miles to the north. But others are seeking it too, and their intentions are not pure." As Marcus hurried to gather essential supplies, he couldn't shake the feeling that his quiet life as a researcher was about to become something much more dangerous. But, looking at Lyra, seeing the trust and hope in her alien features, he knew he couldn't abandon her to face this alone. "Together," he said, more to himself than to her. "Together," Lyra agreed, and, for the first time since her awakening, Marcus felt like they might actually have a chance at preventing the war she feared. Outside, the night sky began to pulse with faint traces of blue light, and Marcus realized that their time for preparation had just run out. The drive north took Marcus and Lyra through winding mountain roads as dawn broke across the horizon. Marcus had barely slept, his mind racing with everything Lyra had told him during their hurried escape from the research station. Now, as they approached the location where Lyra sensed another of her people awakening, he felt a mixture of excitement and dread. "Stop here," Lyra said suddenly, her crystalline features growing more pronounced as they neared their destination. "Something is wrong." Marcus pulled over at a roadside overlook and killed the engine. In the distance, they could see a sprawling government facility nestled in a valley between two mountains. Military vehicles surrounded the complex, and even from miles away, they could see the activity buzzing around what looked like a massive excavation site. "They found your friend first," Marcus said grimly. Lyra's glow intensified, and Marcus could feel waves of anguish emanating from her. "She is awake, but trapped. They are doing something to her, something that causes great pain." Marcus pulled out a pair of binoculars he'd grabbed from his apartment and focused on the facility. What he saw made his stomach turn. Through the chain-link fences and concrete barriers, he could make out a crystalline figure suspended in what appeared to be some kind of energy field. Even at this distance, he could see that the being was struggling against invisible bonds. "We have to help her," Lyra said, her voice carrying an edge that Marcus hadn't heard before. "Against a military facility? Lyra, we're just two people. What can we possibly do?" Lyra turned to him, and her eyes blazed with blue fire. "You underestimate what awakened crystallines are capable of, especially when bonded with a human partner. My people did not survive for millions of years by being helpless." She stepped out of the car, and Marcus watched as her form began to shift and change. Her human disguise melted away, revealing her true crystalline nature. But, this time, she didn't stop there. Her body grew taller, more angular, and what looked like armor began forming around her torso and limbs. Energy crackled between her fingers, and the air around her shimmered with power. "This is who I really am," Lyra said, her voice now carrying harmonic overtones that made the ground beneath their feet vibrate. "The form you first saw me in was my resting state. This is what I become when my people are threatened." Marcus stared in awe. The being before him looked like a warrior goddess crafted from living sapphire and starlight. "Why didn't you show me this before?" "Because I did not want to frighten you," Lyra admitted. "Humans have unfortunate reactions to displays of power they do not understand. But now my sister is in pain, and I will not let fear guide my actions." A new voice spoke from behind them, cold and mechanical. "Neither of you are going anywhere." Marcus spun around to see a squad of soldiers emerging from concealed positions among the rocks. They wore strange armor that seemed to pulse with its own energy, and their weapons looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The squad leader stepped forward, removing her helmet to reveal a scarred face and cold gray eyes. "Dr. Marcus Chen," the woman said. "I am Colonel Sarah Hayes, Xenological Warfare Division. You've caused us quite a bit of trouble." "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. Colonel Hayes smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Disappearing artifacts, unauthorized energy signatures, and now you're traveling with one of them. Did you really think we wouldn't notice?" Lyra stepped protectively in front of Marcus, her crystalline armor gleaming in the morning light. Release my sister, and we will leave peacefully. Your sister? Hayes laughed harshly. Is that what you call Specimen XC2? She's providing us with invaluable data about your species' capabilities. The energy readings alone have advanced our understanding of crystalline technology by decades. Marcus felt sick. She's a living being, not a specimen. You can't just experiment on her. Can't we? Hayes gestured to her soldiers, who raised their strange weapons. Under the Alien Species Act of 2023, any non-human intelligence is classified as a potential threat to national security. We have full authority to contain and study such entities using any means necessary. Lyra's glow intensified, and Marcus could feel power building in the air around them. You will release her, or I will take her. I don't think so. Hayes pulled out a device that looked like a crystalline tuning fork. When she activated it, it emitted a high-pitched whine that made Lyra cry out in pain. The crystalline warrior staggered, her armor flickering and dimming. Harmonic disruptor, Hayes explained casually as Lyra fell to her knees. We learned a lot from studying your sister. Including how to cause your kind significant discomfort. Marcus dropped down beside Lyra, catching her as she collapsed. Her crystalline form was flickering between solid and translucent, and he could feel her pain through their bond. It was like having ice water poured directly into his nervous system. Stop it! Marcus shouted. You're killing her. Not killing, Hayes corrected. Just demonstrating who has the upper hand here. Dr. Chen, you're going to come with us willingly. And, your crystalline friend is going to join her sister in our research facility. Think of the advancement in human technology that will result from studying 2 specimens instead of 1. Marcus looked down at Lyra, seeing the agony in her glowing eyes. Through their bond, he could feel her trying to fight the effects of the harmonic disruptor, but the device was specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in crystalline physiology. She was helpless. But Marcus wasn't. You made one mistake, Colonel, Marcus said, gently helping Lyra to her feet. And, what's that? Marcus smiled, and, for the first time since this nightmare began, he felt confident. You assumed the bond between us only went one way. He pressed his hand against Lyra's crystalline chest and felt their connection flare to life. But, instead of drawing strength from her, he pushed his own life force into the bond. Human determination, human adaptability, human refusal to give up when faced with impossible odds. Lyra's eyes widened in surprise, then blazed with renewed power. The harmonic disruptor was designed to disrupt crystalline energy patterns, but it had no effect on human life force. And, with Marcus's determination flowing through their bond, Lyra found strength she hadn't known she possessed. She stood, her armor reforming stronger than before, now shot through with veins of silver that pulsed in rhythm with Marcus's heartbeat. Thank you, she whispered. Dr. Chen, step away from the entity immediately, Colonel Hayes ordered, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. No, Marcus said simply. And that's where you made your second mistake, Colonel. You see, I'm not just a researcher anymore. I'm bonded to one of the most advanced beings in the galaxy. And she's not just a specimen, she's my friend. Lyra raised her hand, and energy crackled between her fingers. But, instead of attacking the soldiers, she pointed toward the facility in the valley below. The silver veins in her armor began to pulse faster, and Marcus felt power building through their bond. What is she doing? Hayes demanded, raising her own weapon. Something your harmonic disruptor can't stop, Marcus replied. She's calling for help. The energy beam that shot from Lyra's hand was unlike anything the soldiers had ever seen. It wasn't a weapon, it was a signal, a crystalline scream that pierced dimensions and called out to every sleeping crystalline within 1,000 miles. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The ground began to shake as buried crystal formations across the region responded to Lyra's call. In the facility below, alarms began blaring as the captured crystalline broke free from her restraints, her own power amplified by the signal from her awakened sister. But it wasn't just the captive who answered. Throughout the mountains, other dormant crystal formations began to glow with inner light. Some had been buried for centuries, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Others had been recently discovered and were sitting in research facilities and military bases, classified as unusual mineral samples. Now they were all waking up. "What have you done?" Hayes screamed over the growing rumble of seismic activity. "Given my people a choice," Lyra replied, her voice carrying across the valley with supernatural clarity. "They can awaken peacefully, bonded with humans who treat them with respect and kindness. Or they can awaken to find themselves imprisoned and tortured, and respond accordingly." The first new awakening happened at a university geology lab 300 miles away. Dr. Jennifer Walsh had been studying what she thought were unusual crystal formations when they suddenly blazed to life in response to Lyra's call. The crystalline that emerged was disoriented but peaceful, bonding almost immediately with the confused but kind-hearted professor. The second awakening was at a military research base in Nevada. The scientists there had been attempting to cut samples from what they believed were inert alien minerals. When the crystalline awakened to find itself being dissected, the response was swift and terrible. The base's emergency broadcasts lasted exactly 43 seconds before going silent. "This is just the beginning," Lyra told Colonel Hayes as reports of awakenings flooded in through the soldiers' communication systems. "My people are patient, but we are not passive. Push us too far, and you will learn why the last species to enslave crystallines is nothing but dust and legend." Hayes looked around desperately as her soldiers reported in. Half of the awakenings were peaceful, bonding with humans who showed them kindness. But the other half were responding to imprisonment and pain with the full fury of beings who had survived for millions of years by being the apex predators of their dimension. "Call it off," Hayes demanded. "Stop them." "I cannot," Lyra said, and Marcus could hear genuine sadness in her voice. "The choice was never mine to make. Each of my people must decide for themselves how to respond to their awakening. Those who are met with kindness will offer their friendship and knowledge in return. Those who are met with cruelty," she shrugged, "will respond as any sentient being responds to torture." In the facility below, the first crystalline had finished freeing herself and was now systematically dismantling the equipment that had been used to study her. But she wasn't killing anyone. Instead, she was carefully removing the humans from the complex and placing them safely outside before reducing the buildings to crystalline powder. Marcus watched through his binoculars as the freed crystalline emerged from the ruined facility. She was smaller than Lyra, more delicate in appearance, but her power was undeniable. With a gesture, she had reduced a reinforced concrete bunker to its component atoms. "Sarah," Lyra called out, her voice carrying impossible distances. "Come to us." The distant crystalline looked up toward their position and smiled. In the space between one heartbeat and the next, she simply appeared beside them, having somehow traveled several miles instantaneously. "Sister," Sarah said, embracing Lyra. Her voice was like the sound of crystal bells in a gentle breeze. "I felt you calling. Thank you." She turned to Marcus, studying him with eyes like emeralds. "And you are the one who awakened her. I can sense the bond between you. Interesting. It has been long since humans proved capable of such connections." "Not all humans are like them," Marcus said, gesturing toward the soldiers who were still holding their weapons but seemed uncertain about whether to use them. "No," Sarah agreed. "Some show promise. The woman who was studying my resting form, she was kind, if confused. I bonded with her before I came here." Colonel Hayes's radio crackled with increasingly desperate reports. "Colonel, we have 17 confirmed awakenings across North America. 6 have bonded peacefully with civilian humans. 11 have engaged in hostile activity. Military installations at..." The voice cut off in static. "This is chaos," Hayes said, lowering her weapon. "How do we stop it?" "You don't," Marcus replied. "You learn to live with it. The crystallines aren't going anywhere, and neither are we. The question is whether humanity is smart enough to make friends instead of enemies." Lyra stepped forward, her armor receding back into her more familiar crystalline form. "Colonel Hayes, I propose a different approach. Allow me and my bonded partner to serve as intermediaries. We will help facilitate peaceful contacts between your people and mine. But, the days of treating crystallines as specimens or resources are over. Hayes looked around at her squad, then, at the distant facility where her superiors were probably having nervous breakdowns. I don't have the authority to make that decision. Then, find someone who does, Marcus said. Because the alternative is a war between species that could destroy both of our worlds. As if to emphasize his point, another report came through Hayes's radio. Colonel, the Nevada facility is gone. Completely gone. Where it used to be, there's now a crater filled with what appears to be some kind of crystalline structure. The entity responsible is static. We're falling back. Repeat, we are falling back. Sarah winced. Corin was always temperamental. But, he was also held captive longer than most. His anger is understandable. Can you reach him? Lyra asked her sister. Help him understand that not all humans are enemies? Perhaps, Sarah replied. But, it would be better if his new bond partner could reach him. The connections between human and crystalline run deeper than those between crystallines alone. He bonded? Marcus asked in surprise. All awakened crystallines bond, Sarah explained. It is our nature. Even in rage, we seek connection. Corin bonded with one of the soldiers who tried to help him escape. A young man named David Torres. If Torres can reach Corin's calmer nature, the violence may end. Hayes was listening to their conversation with growing alarm. Are you telling me that these creatures are forming bonds with my personnel? Not creatures, Lyra said firmly. Beings. Sentient, intelligent beings who want nothing more than to exist peacefully. Your people have made that difficult, but not impossible. Marcus felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. The events of the past day had drained him physically and emotionally. But, looking at Lyra and Sarah, seeing the hope in their crystalline features, he knew this was only the beginning. What happens now? He asked. Now we prove that humans and crystallines can coexist, Lyra said, taking his hand. Her crystalline fingers were warm against his skin. We find the others, both hostile and peaceful, and we show them a better way. Colonel Hayes lowered her weapon completely. My superiors aren't going to like this. Your superiors will learn to adapt, Sarah said matter-of-factly. The crystallines are awakening whether they like it or not. The only choice is whether that awakening leads to cooperation or devastation. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Marcus looked out over the valley where the first contact between humans and crystallines had gone so terribly wrong. But, beside him stood proof that it didn't have to be that way. Lyra's bond with him had created something new, something that neither species had experienced before. Together, Marcus said, squeezing Lyra's hand. Together, she replied, and, for the first time since the chaos began, Marcus felt hope that they might actually build a future where both species could thrive. But, in the distance, more lights were beginning to flicker as ancient crystallines stirred to wakefulness. Some would awaken to kindness, others to fear and hostility. The real work was just beginning, and Marcus suspected that the bond between him and Lyra would be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. Still, as they prepared to leave the Overlook and begin the dangerous work of preventing an interstellar war, Marcus couldn't help but feel grateful for that moment in the storage bay when his curiosity had led him to touch a beautiful crystal. It had changed everything, but, looking at Lyra's hopeful smile, he knew he wouldn't change any of it. After all, some bonds were worth fighting for. 3 months after the Great Awakening, as the media had dubbed it, Marcus Chen stood before the United Nations General Assembly alongside Lyra and representatives from 12 other human crystalline bonded pairs. The world had changed dramatically since that night in the storage bay, and humanity was still struggling to adapt to the new reality. Honorable delegates, Marcus began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. 3 months ago, humanity discovered that we are not alone in the universe. More importantly, we discovered that we had been sharing our planet with another sentient species for longer than recorded history. Beside him, Lyra stood in her formal diplomatic form, a shimmering, translucent figure that managed to be both alien and approachable. The other crystallines present had adopted similar appearances, though each maintained their unique characteristics. Sarah sparkled like emerald water, while the massive figure of Corin gleamed like polished obsidian.
The awakening had not been smooth.
Of the 47 crystallines who had stirred to consciousness in the weeks following Lyra's call, 18 had bonded peacefully with humans. The other 29 had awakened to find themselves in military laboratories, corporate research facilities, or private collections. Their responses had varied from simple escape to, in 3 cases, complete destruction of the facilities that held them. But humanity had shown its capacity for adaptation. After the initial panic and military response had proven not only ineffective but counterproductive, world leaders had been forced to consider a different approach. The turning point had come when Dr. Jennifer Walsh, bonded with the crystalline called Harmony, had successfully negotiated the peaceful resolution of the Nevada crisis. Corin had been on the verge of reducing half of Nevada to crystalline desert when his bond partner, Sergeant David Torres, had managed to reach through the crystalline's rage and show him that not all humans were enemies. The sight of a young soldier talking down a being capable of reshaping matter at the molecular level had been broadcast worldwide, changing public perception overnight. The Crystalline Coalition, Marcus continued, represents not an invasion or occupation, but an opportunity. An opportunity for both our species to grow, to learn, and to reach heights neither could achieve alone. In the audience, Marcus could see faces ranging from fascinated to terrified. The Chinese delegate was taking notes furiously, while the Russian representative looked like he was calculating military applications. But there were also faces filled with wonder and hope, people who saw the crystallines not as a threat but as a chance for humanity to join a larger galactic community. The technology sharing agreements we propose, Lyra spoke for the first time, her harmonious voice filling the chamber without need for amplification, are based on mutual benefit and respect. Crystalline knowledge of energy manipulation and matter conversion, shared responsibly, could end energy scarcity and environmental degradation on your world. A delegate from Germany raised her hand.
What assurances do we have that this technology won't be weaponized?
Corin stepped forward, his massive frame causing several delegates to shift nervously in their seats. When he spoke, his voice was like distant thunder. Honored human, my people have witnessed the rise and fall of 7 galactic civilizations.
Each fell because they chose conquest over cooperation.
Your species stands at that same crossroads now. He gestured toward the bonded pairs standing at the podium.
These bonds you see before you are not accidents. They represent evolution, not biological, but spiritual.
The connections between human and crystalline create something greater than either species alone.
They represent your potential to be different from those who came before. Marcus felt Lyra's hand slip into his, their bond humming with shared determination.
Over the months, their connection had deepened beyond anything he had imagined possible. He could feel her thoughts, her emotions, her vast memories of worlds and civilizations across the galaxy. In return, she experienced human creativity, adaptability, and the fierce loyalty that had kept humanity alive through countless challenges. But it wasn't just their bond that had grown stronger. Around the world, the 18 peaceful human crystalline pairs had become the foundation of a new kind of society.
Dr.
Walsh and Harmony had established the first Crystalline Research Institute, where human scientists and crystalline entities worked together to develop clean energy technologies. In Japan, an artist named Kenji had bonded with a crystalline called Melody, and their collaborative works were revolutionizing both art and science.
Perhaps most importantly, the bonds seemed to be multiplying. Children born to bonded humans showed a natural affinity for crystalline energy patterns.
Several orphan crystallines, those whose original bond partners had died or been killed during the chaotic first days, had formed new connections with humans who approached them with genuine kindness. The concern about weaponization is valid, Marcus addressed the German delegate directly. But the nature of the human crystalline bond makes such fears largely irrelevant. Crystallines cannot be forced to act against their nature. They will not create weapons of mass destruction, no matter what pressure is applied. And humans bonded with crystallines find themselves changed, their capacity for empathy and understanding expanded beyond anything we previously thought possible.
A representative from India stood up. Dr. Chen, there have been reports of military attempts to create artificial bonds, to force crystallines into servitude. What can be done to prevent this?
Sarah stepped forward, her emerald light pulsing gently. Honored delegate, such attempts are not only morally reprehensible, they are impossible. The bond between human and crystalline must be freely chosen by both parties. Attempts to force such connections result only in pain for both species. She paused, her expression growing serious. However, we are aware of the facilities where such experiments have been attempted. 6 bonded pairs are currently working with your international law enforcement agencies to shut down these operations and rescue both humans and crystallines who have been harmed. Marcus had seen the reports from those rescue missions. The images of tortured crystallines and psychologically broken humans had galvanized public opinion against the military hardliners who still viewed the awakened beings as potential weapons. The footage of Lyra gently healing a traumatized researcher while Marcus comforted a half-mad crystalline who had been subjected to weeks of bonding experiments had become the defining image of the human crystalline cooperation movement.
What about the crystallines who remain hostile? Asked the delegate from Brazil. Reports suggest that several awakened entities continue to attack human settlements. Coran's expression darkened.
My cousin Rage awakened in a place of torment and suffering. For weeks, humans attempted to drain his essence to power their machines. When he finally broke free, his mind had been damaged.
He sees all humans as enemies now.
The big crystalline's voice carried deep sadness. Myself and others have attempted to reach him, but the bond madness has taken hold. He can no longer distinguish between those who would harm him and those who would help. How many others like him are there? The Brazilian delegate pressed.
7, Lyra answered quietly.
7 of my people whose minds were broken by torture and experimentation. They are lost to us, driven mad by pain and betrayal. They cannot form healthy bonds, cannot find peace.
They will continue to lash out until they are stopped. Marcus finished when Lyra couldn't.
It was the darkest aspect of the new reality. Sometimes, despite everyone's best efforts, violence was the only solution. The Secretary General spoke for the first time since the session had begun.
Dr. Chen, the Security Council has been briefed on the Crystalline Coalition's proposals.
While there is broad support for cooperation, there are also significant concerns about sovereignty and security.
What role do you see the UN playing in managing human crystalline relations going forward?
Marcus had been expecting this question. Mr. Secretary General, the crystallines don't want to be managed.
They want to be partners. What we're proposing is the establishment of a joint council with equal representation from both species.
This council would oversee technology sharing, facilitate new bondings, and work to prevent the kind of misunderstandings that led to the current conflicts. He gestured toward his fellow bond partners.
The 18 bonded pairs here today represent more than diplomatic cooperation.
We represent proof that 2 radically different species can find common ground. Our bonds have given us insights into crystalline culture, history, and technology that no amount of study or research could provide.
In return, the crystallines have gained understanding of human creativity, adaptability, and emotional depth.
And 8 approached the Secretary General and whispered something in his ear. The man's expression grew grave. Dr. Chen, the Secretary General said, I'm receiving reports of a new development. It appears that several major corporations have been attempting to synthesize crystalline technology without bonded partners.
The results have been catastrophic.
Marcus felt Lyra tense beside him, their bond carrying waves of alarm.
What kind of catastrophic?
The Yamato Industries facility in Tokyo is gone, the Secretary General replied grimly.
Replaced by what witnesses describe as a crystalline structure that's growing larger by the hour.
Similar incidents have been reported in Detroit and Manchester. In each case, the trigger appears to have been attempts to artificially replicate crystalline energy manipulation. Harmony, bonded with Dr. Walsh, stepped forward. Honored delegates, this is what we have tried to warn you about. Crystalline technology is not mere machinery, it is an extension of our life force, our very being. Attempting to duplicate it artificially is like trying to create artificial souls. The results are unpredictable and dangerous.
What are those structures? Asked the Secretary General. Sarah's emerald glow dimmed with worry.
Crystalline cancer, she said simply. When our technology is improperly activated without proper bonding and safeguards, it becomes self-replicating and destructive.
It will continue to grow until it consumes everything around it. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Can it be stopped? Yes, Corin said firmly. But only by bonded pairs working together. Human adaptability and creativity combined with crystalline power and knowledge. Neither species alone has the capability to contain crystalline cancer. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter as delegates realized the implications. Marcus raised his hand for silence. This is exactly why the Crystalline Coalition is so important, he said once the noise died down. Humanity's technological curiosity is admirable, but without proper understanding and partnership, it becomes dangerous. The crystallines offer not just advanced technology, but the wisdom to use it responsibly. Lyra squeezed his hand, their bond carrying reassurance and determination. My people have dealt with crystalline cancer before, on other worlds with other species. But it requires immediate action and perfect coordination between human and crystalline forces. The Secretary General looked around the chamber at the increasingly worried faces of the delegates. What do you need? Official recognition of the Crystalline Coalition, Marcus replied immediately. Authorization for bonded pairs to respond to these crises without interference from local military or law enforcement. And, most importantly, immediate suspension of all attempts to reverse engineer or synthesize crystalline technology. Some of our member nations may resist giving up their research programs, warned the delegate from France. Corin's voice carried unmistakable menace when he replied, then, those nations will find themselves dealing with crystalline cancer outbreaks that could potentially consume entire continents. This is not a negotiation, honored human. This is an intervention to prevent your species from accidentally destroying itself. The weight of those words settled over the chamber like a blanket. Marcus could see the exact moment when the delegates realized that humanity's technological ambitions had put them at the mercy of beings they still barely understood. But, then, Lyra stepped forward, her crystalline form radiating warmth and compassion. However, she said, for those nations willing to work with us openly and, honestly, the rewards will be beyond imagination. Clean energy, matter conversion, medical technologies that can heal previously incurable diseases, and, eventually, access to the broader galactic community. She gestured toward Marcus and the other bonded humans. These brave individuals have shown that humans are capable of the growth and wisdom needed to join the galactic family. They have proven that humanity's potential for both creation and destruction can be channeled toward cooperation and mutual benefit. Marcus felt a surge of pride through their bond, not just from Lyra but from all the crystallines present. Despite everything humanity had done, the experiments, the torture, the attempts at exploitation, the crystallines still believed that humans could be better. The choice is yours, Marcus addressed the assembly directly. You can continue trying to exploit and control crystalline technology, and watch your cities be consumed by crystalline cancer. Or you can embrace partnership, accept that you're not alone in the universe, and begin building a future that neither species could achieve alone. The vote, when it came 2 hours later, was not unanimous. Several nations abstained, and a few voted against the coalition proposal. But the majority of the world's governments officially recognized the Crystalline Coalition and authorized bonded pairs to respond to technological crises. As Marcus and Lyra left the UN building that evening, they could see reports on the news screens about the first successful containment of crystalline cancer in Tokyo. A team of 3 bonded pairs had worked together to safely neutralize the growing crystal structure, demonstrating the kind of cooperation that would be needed in the days ahead. Do you think it will work? Marcus asked as they walked through Central Park, enjoying the simple pleasure of being together without the weight of history on their shoulders. Lyra's crystalline features shifted into what he had learned to recognize as her thoughtful expression. Some humans will resist, as will some of my people. Change is never easy, especially change of this magnitude. But I have seen your species' capacity for growth, Marcus. Through our bond, I have experienced human hope, determination, and love. These are powerful forces. She paused beside a pond where ducks were swimming in the fading light. My people have waited millennia for a species capable of true partnership. We have found many intelligent races, but most sought only to use us or were too primitive to understand us. Humans are different. Humans can dream of impossible things and, then, make them real. Marcus smiled, feeling their bond humming with contentment.
And crystallines can provide the power and knowledge to make those dreams safe and beneficial for everyone. Together, Lyra said, the word that had become their personal motto. Together, Marcus agreed. As they continued their walk, neither of them noticed the small group of humans who had been following them at a distance. These humans bore no bondlight, showed no signs of crystalline partnership. Their eyes were cold, their expressions calculating. They represented the faction that still viewed crystallines as a threat to be eliminated rather than partners to be embraced. The war for humanity's future was far from over. But, in that moment, walking through a peaceful park with the being who had changed his life forever, Marcus felt confident that love and understanding would ultimately triumph over fear and hatred. After all, some bonds were strong enough to reshape the world. In the distance, other bonded pairs were working to prevent catastrophes, heal the wounded, and build bridges between species. Children were being born who would grow up in a world where humans and crystallines worked side by side. Scientists were unlocking secrets that would revolutionize medicine, energy, and space travel. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges and dangers that neither species fully understood yet. But it was also filled with possibilities that neither could achieve alone. Marcus squeezed Lyra's hand and felt her squeeze back, their bond carrying promises of adventures yet to come, discoveries yet to be made, and a love that transcended the boundaries between species. The age of human crystalline partnership had begun, and, despite the obstacles ahead, Marcus knew they would face them together. After all, Lyra had refused to be apart from him since the moment of her awakening, and he had no intention of ever letting her go. Together, they would help write the next chapter of both their species' stories. And it would be a story of hope, growth, and the incredible things that became possible when two different kinds of beings chose to trust each other with their hearts.